Hi, Wayne. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ed. How about yourself?
Oh, good. I'm with Wayne Ratner here at the IPMI here in Orlando at the conference for the Auto Catalyst Conference.
Yes.
We've known each other a lot of years.
Yes,
huh?
we have, sir.
Yeah.
No, it's been good. Good. I think good for everybody.
Wayne, who are you with right now?
I am the operations director for PGM of Texas.
PGM of Texas. Big company.
Yes, it is. 14 locations and growing.
And growing. Tell us a little bit about your products and services.
Okay, well, today we can say we're pretty much full-blown operation. We have a lab, including an ICP. So we're set up with a couple XRF for immediate reads and full ICP that will give us the chemical analysis and full readout. We have just recently installed 2 large ball mill systems to accompany our smaller first ball mill system that we put in sampling systems. So currently we're bringing all of our material in from all of our locations and running it and sampling it prior to being shipped out.
So you're doing this all in one location now?
All in one location currently with plans to, as we grow, we'll put sampling units, decan units in all of the locations to save from shipping costs, and then we'll eventually put samplers in those where, logistically it makes sense.
No, that sounds really good. Definitely have some capabilities, huh?
And at the point, and on the smaller items, the foils, which represent a much smaller part of our business,
Right.
we're installing our own processing system for that as well.
Exciting.
As our sensors in-house, if it makes economic sense.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah. So no, we're very excited, and of course, the owner of our company, Alan, has just he operates that business like a family corporation. He treats his employees incredibly well, and he gives you a lot of lead to get stuff done. Right. So he says surrounding himself with guys that have a lot of experience in the industry. He's built a great team. And
I was going to ask you about your experience in the industry. How long have you been in this catalytic converter?
21 years.
21 years.
Okay.
Oh, so you're the old man on the block, huh?
Yeah, we're the ones that did it all, right? We were the buyers. We tried processing, building in the tool part of the company, having owned SuperShear for 4 years.
Right.
It's a niche business. It's hard to survive.
It can be.
We've had our ups and downs.
Yeah.
I got wiped off the planet in 2007. Didn't see it coming.
Okay, so in 2007, what happened?
2007, the demand for everything came to an end overnight. And that was a year I owned a tool company that we just kept investing all of our profits into machinery.
Right.
And inventory, and then the bust came, and we were holding $1.5 million worth of equipment, and there was more equipment on eBay for sale from all of the people that were getting crushed.
They were getting crushed, so they were liquidating their used equipment.
Used equipment.
And that's hard to compete against a downturn in the economy like that.
Absolutely.
Especially when you were a manufacturer of equipment back in those days, right?
Correct.
Wow.
So, and that's what we were doing. We were expanding. We were making a lot of money, but we were pumping it back into the company to just make it bigger.
Well, that's what Americans do when they're entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah, sure. So it was a rough couple of years. It was start over. So, but again, I've been in this business for 20 years, so went back into business, buying converters and brokering deals.
So then the demand for the precious metals increased a few years later, and the pricing stabilized?
It did stabilize, and it was cycling. And what went up had to come down, and what went down started to go back up, and it became very lucrative again.
Right.
So.
Yeah, well, right now with everybody's talking about the price of rhodium and the price of palladium.
Well, everything's at all-time highs. It is. This is the highest. For me, I've ever seen, and it will be the highest I've ever seen again. And
you think this is a short-term price?
I think we've got through 2024 from everything that we're hearing.
About supply-demand fundamentals.
We're hearing that palladium is going to live in an arena that's over $2,000.
Yeah.
Okay, it could double again. Right now, they say it's a number, so depending on what investors do and the demand, it's what's going to drive that price up or down again. So it's just, we've been watching it where you can no longer buy blocks of metal and fill it, okay, with multiple. You hedge as you go, or you hedge before you go.
Right.
Okay, and if you don't run your process very tight in this kind of environment, you can get stung and beat up pretty bad, or put out of business.
Well, we saw rhodium drop about $10,000 an ounce, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? It's come up a little bit from there.
And I have personally dealt with guys that have been stuck with rhodium, and it's cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars,
Sure.
okay, and overnight.
Right.
Okay, so no, with these prices, you can't. You could, if you're gambling. Okay, if you're hedging big and you don't know when you're going to fill the material.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of volume in the market right now. We see converters left and right needing to be decanned and processed. What are you hearing about capacities at the smelters or the refiners currently right now?
Currently right now, there's more supply than there is capacity. Okay, 3 years ago, there was way more capacity than there was supply. The smelters were giving away terms. Okay, they were fighting against each other and giving away all their margins to get the inventory. Today, they're picking and choosing who they want to do business with, and they're putting caps on the volume that you can supply.
Okay, so they're limiting the amount of material that's coming in because they have so much, and they're picking and choosing. If I was in their industry, I would probably be picking and choosing high grade versus low grade because you have a greater margin with high grade.
Greater margin, takes the same amount of time to run, clean out is the same. So their preference is to have the highest grade material they can possibly get their hands on.
Yeah. Yeah, that
and
totally
they're
makes
penalizing you for providing lower grade material.
Yeah, low grade material or deleterious elements.
Correct. So there's sometimes it's just not even cost effective process.
Right. What do you do with that low grade stuff nowadays?
Well, where I think a lot of companies used to process their aftermarket material, okay, to absorb data on that material, they're being forced to now mix the material back into their higher grade material because
I've heard that.
Well, it's what we do.
Yeah.
It's not about it. It's if you sell an aftermarket load by itself, you're going to get penalized by the smelter for thousands of dollars.
That's right.
So you have to figure out what that mix is to keep your
low.
PPMs
and
your load
dilute it
to whatever your commitments are to whatever smelter you're doing business with, so that you can maintain your contracts.
Mm-hmm. Where do you see this market going here in the next 2 years?
Well, I see the market, the legal part of this market being our biggest challenge as collectors right now. Due to the high pricing, it has brought theft to an all-time high. It has brought law enforcement agencies to ask their state legislators to change the laws to help them.
To help them.
Okay, to help them.
Right. Are they speaking with industry about that?
I don't think they've done a good enough job, involving the industry leaders that could really help them, or the largest collectors in the U.S. that are dealing with these issues on a daily basis.
So they're just looking at it from a legislative perspective.
What they can do to limit the number of people, that have access to the converters. And it's not working. So they are attacking the sources that buy them, from these individuals. So they're leaning on us to help them with their job. And it's forcing us to go through all kinds of hoops to be in compliance. And if it was just one universal process being done, it'd be okay. But every state is adopting different measures, and sometimes within the states, it's only counties. So it's causing larger companies to hire compliance departments.
Wow.
To make sure that we're doing things right and not at risk of loss or freedom.
Do you see any shortcuts or simple fixes to this problem?
Well, for me, 21 years, I'd make everybody get registered either through a precious metal license or some sort of scrap license, that if you want to be in the business of recycling catalytic converters,
Which is precious metal.
which is precious metal.
Right.
To me, it's a little more than a scrap item or a non-ferrous, different material, right? So today it is a precious metal that's super valuable. I think you get a license in wherever you want to do business. So if you want to do business in 4 states, you register yourself in 4 states. And all of the collectors, large collectors that collect from this middle band of collectors, if these guys don't come in and have the license,
Right.
you just don't buy and you turn them in.
Right.
And that's what's happening. We had 2 people arrested at our facility this morning. They were on a police list.
I saw the photograph that Steve was showing me. Yeah.
So we have made a commitment that we're not looking to be the so-called snitch, but we're going to turn in the bad actors.
Of course you should. Yeah.
And get them off the street.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I think we're going to hear more of the industry talking about these efforts and how they are dealing with it. We hear things like not paying cash when suppliers
hit it on the
come
head.
in.
That needs to come to an end.
That has to come to an end at some point in this industry.
Again, the reason guys want to get paid for cash is only one and only, is they want to avoid paying taxes. So we don't want to be the ones to participate in there, but if you want to be in a competitive market and you walk in and a guy says, I'm being paid for cash, if it's legal, okay, it's going to happen. Even if it's illegal, it's happening.
Right.
Okay, and it just needs to come to an end that cash is not just not used as a vehicle. Checks or wire. If you're not willing to accept that, it means that there's just another red flag, right?
That's another red flag, absolutely, and that could trigger SAR report as well. It doesn't have to meet the $10,000 threshold. It just has to meet your red flag, where you think that there's something going on and you need to report it.
Now, I wouldn't have a problem paying a guy cash if he's got his license to do business, because we're going to record the transaction. And at that point, governmental, you tag a 1099 to those individuals at the end of the year.
Right.
Okay, and it's going to bring more transparency. It's going to bring tax dollars. It's going to clean up the industry. Instead, everybody's sort of fractured doing what they want to do.
Right.
And so we're on a campaign at PGM to, we meet with local law enforcement now wherever we're going to do business.
That's good.
Okay, it's cumbersome, it's expensive, but it puts us in a place to do business the right way and aid law enforcement as much as we can.
Well, catalytic converter theft right now is a hot button item. Are you seeing industry groups such as the IPMI, we're here today, addressing this as an organization, or some of the other industry groups that are out there?
I don't know if IPMI is the right vehicle that's attacking this right now. I think there's globally, the IPMI has other functions that they're really working on curing other problems. Now, ISRI, ARA, are devoted, and trying to work to get some sort of universal program in place that's going to work for everybody. That again.
Well, I sure hope the industry groups are listening to the business owners and receiving input rather than legislature just going down their path because they're being lobbied by some special interest group. Which could do more harm to small business owners in the country and favor these larger special interest groups.
And these larger interest groups never had an interest in buying converters from the public. Today, they buy converters from the public. They want to buy converters from the public. So if they've chosen to be in that arena, which really makes them competitors to ourselves, again, in another arena, that for them to be in compliance, it's real simple. I go back to this licensing. if you have a license, we're going to buy from you because you're registered to do business here. Okay, and at that point, you're obligated to have the correct paperwork that you own that converter, and if you're challenged with it by law enforcement, you're going to be able to prove where you got it from, and you have ownership of it. Today, that's just not happening. There's lines in some of these larger yards of guys early in the morning selling converters that there's no paperwork to.
Yeah, that has to come.
And they're getting paid cash.
That has
to
end,
at this point, it's just time to clean it up.
It needs to be cleaned up. That's right. But we could spend all day talking about
Oh, yes, sir.
And I really want to ask you this, and shifting gears a little bit.
Okay.
We're hearing out there that people are receiving all-time high prices on converters nowadays because of the underlying value of platinum and palladium and rhodium. And we're seeing the converters getting a little bit smaller, but we're also hearing that the loadings are getting richer and richer over time. Do you see that trend continuing?
Well, they're going to make it. They're going to continue to do that until they reach, I think, a maximum efficiency, right? Okay.
Right.
And for them, as I said, they keep pushing it closer to the engine. They make smarter. It gets, again, metal prices. But I think they're working on efficiencies for their own benefits, right? Because of the cost of goods to build these things.
That's right.
So for them, it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't. In a lot of cases, I think they build two converters. One that's a high palladium load and one that's a high platinum load, and depending on market conditions, they put that converter in that's most cost effective to them.
Right.
And if they don't need the other one down the road, it just gets smelted.
Right.
Okay, it just gets destroyed in a brand new state. The metal gets reclaimed, and it goes back into another converter somewhere down the road.
Interesting. Well, we're hearing that there's materials out there that are not really suited for the recycling stream at the smelter. You have your DPFs are choosing not to clog their system with DPFs because they're low value. Diesel oxidation catalyst, some of it's pretty high value, some of it's lower value. They don't want that lower value. Well, they'll take it if you're willing to pay them to do it because the terms are going to reflect their handling charges and their cost structure. But there's other deleterious elements that really affect what's going on in their furnaces. Can you give me an example of a couple of things?
Right now, I've seen it until like 2.5 years ago. No, the word mention of carbon wasn't even around. Okay, and then it was these carbon is starting to appear in these diesel, especially the diesels, the DPFs, and the sick material. Just getting clogged up in processing. That after a couple furnaces either blew up or had some malfunctions due to high carbon content.
Overheating.
Overheating. The smelters.
You can't control the temperature; it just burns or runs up the temperature.
It burns up, and and is very dangerous, right? So the unknown. So the industry started putting limits on what they could accept for, to put in their furnaces.
Right.
And I think in the very beginning, if I remember, it was about 5%.
Yeah, it's not that bad. It's come down though.
Yeah, right.
And so, what about some of the other substrates? I hear that they're trying to engineer. What was I hearing? Aluminum type. What's it
I don't even know what the other word was. Billy had brought up the whole session of, now they're going to make them stronger.
Right. And
thinner,
right.
And with different material that is, again, most likely going to mess up the furnace. And
so I'm understanding that recycling of that material is going to be a challenge in the future because of the fact that the manufacturers are operating their designs to the most optimum efficiency and cost structure without taking into consideration the circular recycling aspect of it. Which is, we really should get these recycling groups, such as the smelters, to be communicating with the manufacturers or the engineers to try to come up with that circular economy for those difficult materials that are coming in the future. We're seeing a little bit of it now.
I wish I had faith in that statement, but, I just went and talked to the largest smelter refiner. And the right hand and the left hand are two different companies. The right hand doesn't care what happens to the left hand.
Right.
They care what happens to their hand.
Two different business models.
Within the same industry, within the same company, the one processing the auto catalyst and the other one manufacturing. And there's no sharing. There's nothing in between them. They're not
same company.
Okay, same company. Where you would think that they would pass the information on of what they're going to be using to make that would, allow them to have some time to work out what it was going to do to their furnaces, and it's absolutely just doesn't exist. With that,
so the challenges are difficult.
I think they're going to get tougher for us because right now we got capacity issues with good material. We have no place to place the bad material.
The low grade.
They don't want low grade. Okay, and again, we're talking about other things coming down the line that could severely affect their ability to process poundage, and for them to invest in the millions to put new furnaces in. Okay, their fear is by the time it's done and ready to go, that there won't be the demand to fill. Now, I'm hoping after what we saw here today, that they know that it's years out. There should be a abundance of inventory. That hopefully the capacity will increase by them adding furnaces.
Well, we've been asking for a couple of years about that, and we're just beginning to hear that investment is coming in that area. A little behind the eight ball, but I'm happy to hear that it's coming.
Okay, and long, and it takes years for it to happen. So again, capacity issues are going to continue inside the U.S. I just don't see that going away. Okay, I just see that until they get other furnaces on or other actors come into the game, and there are a few smelters that aren't as good as others.
Right. Well,
okay, they're there, and at that point, it even limits it more, or you're forced to do business with them and live on a lesser return.
Well, economics dictate. So if that's the reality, that's the reality.
The reality is, if you need the cash to continue the flow and the table turn, you're going to learn to live on less to be able to place your material.
Right.
So the eventual end is to have full control, is to own your own furnace, everything, and not be dependent on anybody to.
Well, you're still dependent on the wet chemistry side after smelting. So
that is true. Okay, I think
that's another issue that we're talking about. That,
sure.
Is we're talking about these capacity issues, and there's only so many kettles available to dissolve platinum group metals at the wet chemistry operation. And I think they're at capacity now. And I'm hearing that what used to be 6 weeks became 8 weeks, it's 10 weeks, outturn.
Right.
That's just because material's sitting in the vault, waiting, because it's in the queue, it needs to get into that acid digester, and they're not building any more kettles and putting them on the line.
Right.
So the investment needs to come into that area as well. And, the margins on the refinery side, the wet chemistry side are so thin that they're reluctant to do that. And I get it. So it's a challenging industry. Going forward, I think that it's going to become more complex.
I agree. And I just think it's greater than one, right? If you don't have some sort of a team to really get in there and figure it out, and the right resources, financial resources, this is at these rates, it's just it's toxic.
Right.
It really is. It can eat you. It can eat you alive in a week with these kind of rates.
Well, this was great. I really appreciate you coming and sitting down with me today.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Truly appreciate it.
So how would one get a hold of you guys? Website?
Absolutely, pgmoftexas.com.
PGM of Texas.
Okay, just or call, look for us.
Call, look for it. You guys are all over social media.
Good. We're proud to have people come visit our facility.
Absolutely.
And see what we've done to help.
Do I get a tour?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I want it online because I know you got a much better system on that. But Alan is the entrepreneurial spirit. And So we're all in trying, just trying to refine and make it the best.
Thank you, Wayne.
Okay, pleasure. Thanks, man.